What's up, guys? I just read On Writing by Jorge Borges. Um, it's probably the most technical on writing book I've ever read. It's very referential. He's constantly talking about other authors who have changed literary conventions or changed popular form. For that reason, I was a little lost in parts. For example, he spends a long section talking about James Joyce and modernism, which I haven't really read any James Joyce, so just lost on me. But he also talks about Oscar Wilde and Virginia Woolf, and it's probably a book that I'll circle back to once I've read more. It's also very technical. For example, in one section of the book, he goes into whether or not writing in Spanish or English are better grammatically, and he talks about how the adjective comes after the noun in Spanish versus in English it becomes before. So he says, if you say a horse that's brown, which would be Spanish, versus a brown horse, it's a different response by the reader, who then is going to form that idea in their imagination. That's the initial argument, and then he argues against that, saying basically advanced readers, he compares them to chess players and says advanced readers condense information and make assumptions so fast that it doesn't really matter the order that they're in. But there is also a famous Jorge Luis Borges interview that I've watched before, where he talks about writing in English, and he says writing in English is the best relative to other languages because it's both Germanic and Latin. So you typically have two different ways to say anything you want to say, and because there are two different ways to say things, each variation of the word or thing kind of take on their own connotation culturally over time, and so they have a different nuanced meaning. I wish I could think of an example off the top of my head, but anyway, it's the most intense on writing book I've read. Definitely I would read it after all of the other books on writing. If you're working on writing, trying to become a better, novelist, short story writer, whatever. And yeah, I'll probably reread it myself. That's it. Thanks for watching.